My boss stole credit for my work for 5 years, so I waited until the day before his retirement to expose him. 5 years ago, I started working at this mid-sized company in downtown Chicago, fresh out of college and eager to prove myself. I was assigned to work under this guy who had been there for nearly 30 years and was planning to retire within the next few years. Everyone respected him, talked about how brilliant he was, how he had single-handedly transformed the department over the decades. I bought into it completely at first. The first project he assigned me was supposedly just research and data collection. I spent weeks diving deep into market analysis, competitor research, and trend forecasting. I created comprehensive reports, developed new methodologies for data interpretation, and even built some predictive models that ended up being incredibly accurate. When I presented everything to him, he seemed genuinely impressed and told me I had done excellent work. 2 weeks later, I watched him present my entire analysis to the executive team as his own work. He stood there confidently explaining concepts I had developed, using charts I had created, and taking credit for insights that had taken me months to uncover. I sat in the back of the room, stunned and confused. When someone asked about a specific methodology, he stumbled slightly but recovered by saying he would provide more details later. After the meeting, I confronted him privately. He gave me this condescending smile and explained that this was how business worked. He told me I was still learning, and that my work needed his guidance and experience to be properly presented. He assured me that I would get recognition eventually, but for now, I needed to focus on developing my skills under his mentorship. I was young and naive, so I believed him. I convinced myself that this was normal, that I was paying my dues, that eventually I would get the recognition I deserved. I threw myself into the next project with even more enthusiasm, determined to prove my worth and earn that eventual recognition he had promised. The second project was even more complex. We were tasked with developing a new customer retention strategy. I spent countless hours analyzing customer behavior patterns, conducting surveys, and developing innovative approaches to engagement. I created a comprehensive framework that addressed every aspect of customer lifecycle management. The work was genuinely groundbreaking for our industry. Once again, he presented it as his own work to the senior leadership. This time, he even published an article in a trade magazine about the innovative approach, with his name as the sole author. I watched my ideas become his legacy, my hard work become his reputation. The article was well received, and he started getting invited to speak at industry conferences about strategies I had developed. I began documenting everything. Every email, every draft, every iteration of my work. I kept detailed records of when I submitted each piece, what feedback I received, and how the final presentations differed from my original work. I started saving everything to a personal cloud storage account, creating a comprehensive archive of evidence. The third year brought an even bigger project. Our company was bidding on a major contract that could transform our entire business model. I was tasked with developing the technical proposal, which required months of research, countless revisions, and innovative solutions to complex problems. I worked 16-hour days, sacrificed weekends, and poured everything I had into creating something truly exceptional. The proposal was revolutionary. I had identified market gaps that no one else had noticed, developed implementation strategies that were both innovative and practical, and created cost projections that were incredibly detailed and accurate. It was the best work I had ever done, and I knew it could change the trajectory of our entire company. When we won the contract, he was hailed as a visionary. The CEO personally congratulated him at the company meeting, praising his innovative thinking and strategic brilliance. He received a substantial bonus and was featured in the company newsletter as an example of exceptional leadership and creativity. I watched from the audience, seething with anger but still documenting everything. The fourth year was when I started planning my revenge. I realized that he was approaching retirement and that this pattern would continue until he left the company with his reputation intact and his legacy secure. I began thinking about timing, about when and how I could expose him most effectively. I wanted to wait until the moment when it would have maximum impact. I continued working on increasingly complex projects, each one more significant than the last. I developed new processes that improved efficiency by 40%, created cost-saving measures that saved the company hundreds of thousands of dollars, and designed strategic initiatives that positioned us ahead of our competitors. Every single achievement was credited to him. During this time, I started networking within the industry. I attended conferences, joined professional associations, and began building relationships with people from other companies. I never mentioned what was happening at my workplace, but I made sure people knew about my actual capabilities and expertise. I started building a reputation separate from my official work environment. The fifth year was when everything started coming together. He announced his official retirement date, and the company began planning a massive celebration. They were organizing a retirement party that would include industry leaders, former colleagues, and senior executives from partner companies. It was going to be a tribute to his 30-year career and his contributions to the field. I realized this would be the perfect moment. The retirement party would be the culmination of his career, the final celebration of his supposed achievements. It would be attended by everyone who mattered in our industry, including people who had praised his work and cited his innovations. The timing would be devastating because it would happen at the moment of his greatest triumph. I began preparing meticulously. I organized all my documentation into a comprehensive presentation that clearly demonstrated the pattern of theft over 5 years. I included time-stamped emails, original drafts with my authorship, and side-by-side comparisons of my work and his presentations. I created a timeline that showed exactly when I had submitted each piece and when he had presented it as his own. But I needed something more dramatic, something that would make the exposure undeniable. I decided to create a final project that would be so obviously mine that he could not possibly claim credit for it. I spent months developing a comprehensive business strategy that incorporated personal details about my background, my education, and my unique perspective on the industry. I embedded subtle references to my college thesis, my hometown, and even my personal interests throughout the analysis. I created methodologies that were clearly based on my academic background and included approaches that reflected my specific expertise. The work was brilliant, but it was also unmistakably mine in ways that only I would understand. As expected, he presented this final project as his own work to the executive team. He stood there confidently, taking credit for strategies that were fundamentally rooted in my personal experience and knowledge. He even scheduled a presentation to the board of directors for the week of his retirement party, planning to end his career with this supposedly brilliant analysis. The week before his retirement party, I made my move. I requested a meeting with the CEO and the entire executive team. I told them I had discovered something important about our recent strategic initiatives and that I needed to present it immediately. They were intrigued, especially since I had never requested such a high-level meeting before. I walked into that conference room with a presentation that would destroy his career. I started by showing them the timeline of projects over the past 5 years, demonstrating the pattern of stolen work. I presented the evidence methodically, showing original drafts, email timestamps, and clear comparisons between my submissions and his presentations. The room was silent as I revealed project after project where he had taken credit for my work. I showed them the Trade magazine article that had made him famous, proving that every single idea had originated from my research. I demonstrated how the major contract that had transformed our company had been one based entirely on my proposal. Then I revealed the final project. I showed them how the business strategy he had just presented was embedded with personal details that could only have come from my background. I explained the references to my education, my hometown, and my unique perspective. I demonstrated how the methodologies were based on my academic training and personal expertise. The CEO asked him to explain the discrepancies. He tried to maintain his composure, claiming that he had guided my work and that collaboration was normal in business. But the evidence was overwhelming. The timestamps, the personal details, the clear pattern of theft over 5 years made his explanations sound desperate and unconvincing. What happened next was beyond anything I had imagined. The CEO immediately canceled the retirement party and launched an internal investigation. Within days, they had interviewed other employees who confirmed that they had witnessed the pattern of stolen credit. Former colleagues came forward with additional examples of his behavior from years before I had even started working there. The investigation revealed that he had been stealing credit for decades, not just from me, but from numerous employees throughout his career. His entire reputation was built on the work of others, and his supposed innovations were actually the result of talented people whose contributions had been systematically erased from the record. The company faced a massive crisis. They had to contact the Trade magazine and retract the article that had made him famous. They had to reach out to conference organizers and explain why his speaking engagements needed to be canceled. They had to notify clients and partners about the true authorship of strategies that had been attributed to him. His retirement was immediately revoked, and he was terminated for cause. The company released a statement acknowledging that credit had been improperly assigned and that they were taking steps to ensure accurate attribution of work. They offered to publish corrections and acknowledgments wherever his stolen work had been publicized. The personal impact on him was devastating. His reputation in the industry was completely destroyed. Colleagues who had respected him for decades distanced themselves from him. Professional associations revoked honors they had given him. His legacy was not just tarnished but completely obliterated. For me, the vindication was overwhelming. The CEO personally apologized and offered me a significant promotion with a substantial salary increase. The company published an internal memo acknowledging my contributions over the past 5 years and crediting me with the innovations that had driven our success. They offered to help me publish articles under my own name and to speak at industry conferences. But the most satisfying part was not the professional recognition. It was the knowledge that I had waited for the perfect moment and executed my plan flawlessly. I had documented everything, built an irrefutable case, and revealed the truth at the moment when it would have maximum impact. The timing had been absolutely perfect. The industry quickly learned about what had happened. Word spread through professional networks, and people began recognizing me as the actual source of innovations they had previously attributed to him. I started receiving job offers from companies that wanted to hire the person who had actually created the strategies they had been trying to emulate. I decided to stay with the company, but in a completely different role. I was promoted to lead a new department focused on innovation and strategic development. I was given the resources and autonomy to pursue my own projects without interference. Most importantly, I was guaranteed that my work would be properly attributed and that I would receive credit for my contributions. The experience taught me valuable lessons about patience, planning, and the importance of documentation. I learned that sometimes the most effective revenge is not immediate retaliation, but carefully planned exposure at the perfect moment. I discovered that waiting for the right opportunity can make the impact far more devastating than acting impulsively. Looking back, I realized that those 5 years of stolen credit were actually an investment in my eventual vindication. Every project that was taken from me became evidence in my case. Every moment of frustration and anger was fuel for my determination to expose the truth. The longer I waited, the more comprehensive my evidence became. The situation also revealed the importance of building relationships and maintaining integrity. The colleagues who supported me during the investigation were people who had observed my actual work and knew the truth. The industry contacts I had developed independently gave me credibility and options when everything was revealed. Today, I am recognized as one of the leading innovators in our field. My work is properly attributed, and I have published several articles that have been well received by industry professionals. I speak at conferences, mentor young professionals, and have built a reputation based on my actual contributions rather than stolen credit. The man who stole my work for 5 years is now a cautionary tale in our industry. His name is associated with dishonesty and theft rather than innovation and leadership. His 30-year career ended in disgrace, and his reputation will never recover from the exposure of his systematic deception. The most important lesson from this experience is that patience and planning can be far more effective than immediate confrontation. By waiting for the perfect moment and building an irrefutable case, I was able to achieve complete vindication and destroy his reputation in a way that would have been impossible with early action. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I had confronted him differently in those early years. Would the outcome have been different if I had been more assertive, or if I had involved management sooner? But I believe that the way everything unfolded was actually perfect. The timing, the evidence, and the impact all aligned to create the most devastating possible result. The experience also taught me about the importance of recognizing and valuing the contributions of others. In my current role, I make sure that everyone who works with me receives proper credit for their ideas and efforts. I never want to be the person who takes credit for someone else's work, and I actively work to ensure that recognition is distributed fairly. The 5 years of stolen credit were difficult, but they led to something far better than I could have imagined. I gained not just vindication, but also a deeper understanding of patience, planning, and the value of building irrefutable evidence. The experience transformed me from a naive young employee into a strategic thinker who understands the importance of timing and preparation. Sometimes the best revenge is not just exposing the truth, but doing it in a way that creates lasting consequences and ensures that the pattern of behavior can never continue. By waiting until the day before his retirement, I guaranteed that his legacy would be one of dishonesty rather than achievement, and that felt like the perfect form of justice.